So as we go through these next few problems in section 9.3, before I flip to the next page, talk a little bit more about these steps that are at the top. So in these next few examples, we are going to be using step 1 and step 2. We are going to see parentheses where we're going to have to use our distributive property. We are going to see equations where we have to simplify each side separately before we go through and start adding and subtracting and then finish off our problems with division like we did in those last couple of examples. So for example 2 to start with, we have 4 times y plus 1 equals 6y minus 6. Right, so looking at this right away, we should notice that we have parentheses. So we want to take and we want to distribute this 4 on this side. Right, remember when we're using our distributive property, we're taking that number that's out front and we're multiplying it by everything that's inside. So if it's helpful to draw little arrows, we can draw little arrows. I'm going to do it for this first one, but not necessarily for the rest of them, but we're thinking about that being our distributive property. So 4 times y is 4y, 4 times 1 is 4. On the other side, we just have 6y minus 6. Right, now what we have is something that looks similar to what we saw in the last example. Right, so we have 2 terms on each side, 1 variable term, 1 constant term, so we're going to start by moving stuff around. We're going to get rid of the number that's on the left. So we're going to get rid of that 4. 4y equals 6y minus 10. Right? Negative 6 and negative 4 add to give us a negative 10 because they're the same sign. Now we're going to get rid of the variable term that's on the right side. Right? So we're going to subtract 6y from both sides to cancel that out. 4y minus 6y, different signs, so we subtract. We get negative 2y equals negative 10. And we're going to finish this off by dividing each side by our coefficient of negative 2. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 gives us positive 5, so y equals positive 5. Right, for these examples, just like we could for our previous problems, right, we can plug in our numbers to check. 4 times 5 plus 1. Right, and we want to see if this is equal to 6 times 5 minus 6. Right, 4 times 5 plus 1, well that's 4 times 6. Right, 4 times 6 is 24. Over here, 6 times 5 is 30. 30 minus 6 also equals 24, so our check is good. Alright, for B, we do see a distributive property over here on the right that we're going to have to deal with. Alright, so we're going to want to distribute that 3 to everything in here. As we're distributing that 3, notice that there is a negative sign out front, so we are going to be distributing that negative sign as well. And then also notice on the left we have 3 terms. Anytime we see 3 terms, that should tell us that we can go ahead and combine something. So we can combine our 11 and our 4. 11 plus 4 gives us 15. So we have 15 minus 6w equals negative times negative gives us a positive 9w. Negative times negative gives us a positive 12. Right. Now we're going to start moving stuff around. Get rid of the number on the left. Subtract 15 from both sides. Negative 6w equals 9w. Positive 12 minus 15, different signs, so we subtract, we get negative 3. Right. And then here we are going to take and get rid of our positive 9w by subtracting 9w. Negative 6w, negative 9w, negative 15w equals negative 3. Now we're going to divide by our coefficient of negative 15. As we're doing this, you may start to look at this and say, what's going on? Why are we dividing by the larger number? Well, in this case, our larger number is actually our coefficient. Right? So what we see here is we see a fraction that we're going to get for our answer. And our answer I'm going to go ahead and write as both a fraction and a decimal. So this 3 over 15, those 2 negatives are going to turn positive. And then as we're looking at and thinking about these, right, both of these guys are divisible by 3. So we're going to go ahead and divide both of those numbers by 3 to give us a nice reduced fraction for our answer. Right? So 3 divided by 3 is 1. 15 divided by 3 is 5. Again, the two negatives turn positive, which is why I lost the negative signs. If you do, however, or alternately decide to turn this into a decimal, this does give us 0.2 as a decimal. Right? And just to kind of show that work quickly here, right, we would divide 5 into 1.0. 5 doesn't go into 0, but 5 goes into 10 twice. So that's how we get that decimal equivalent of the answer. And so as you're working through these problems, again, just be paying attention to what you're being asked for in MyMathLab as far as the answer goes. And if you do end up with a few fractions, decimals for some answers as we go through these problems, that shouldn't be an immediate reason to panic. However, if every single problem is giving you fractions, you might want to double check some things. But you could possibly run into some questions for sure that result in decimal or fraction answers. Alright, so then we're going to finish off these last couple of examples. So example C and D. Okay, so looking at C, again on the left side we do see parentheses, which is going to indicate our distributive property, and we do see some like terms that we can combine on our right side. Right, so on our left side, 2 times x is 2x. 2 times negative 5 is negative 10. Right, so that was our left side. On the right side, 3x plus 2x gives us 5x, right, and we have the plus 6. Right, so we're going to get rid of the number on the left. Add 10 to both sides. 2x equals 5x plus 16. Then we're going to get rid of the variable on the right. Subtract 5x from both sides. Negative 3x equals 16. Divide by our coefficient of negative 3. X equals, as an improper fraction, negative 16 over 3. As a mixed number, negative 5 1/3, because 3 goes into 16 5 times with 1 left over. Or as a decimal, negative 5.3. The 3 keeps repeating, so we can throw a repeating bar over it. Alright, one more for D. On the left, we do have some like terms we can combine. On the right, we're going to start with our distributive property, and then we're actually going to have one more additional step to work through. Alright, so on the left, our 1 and 10 is going to give us 11, so we have 11 minus 2x. On the right, we're going to keep that negative 1 out front. We're going to start by distributing that negative 4. Right, negative 4x minus 8. Then we're going to go ahead and combine, right, our numbers on that right side. So our left side is going to stay 11 minus 2x. And that right side, our negative 1 and negative 8, are going to give us a negative 9 minus 4x. And we add because we have the same sign. Now that we have everything simplified and looking as nice as possible on both sides, we're going to start by getting rid of the number on the left. So we're going to subtract 11 from both sides. Negative 2x equals negative 20 minus 4x. We're going to add 4x to both sides, because now we're getting rid of the variable that's on the right. Negative 2x plus 4x is 2x, different signs, so we subtract. Our larger number is positive, so our result is positive. And we carry down our negative 20. Divide both sides by 2 to get rid of our coefficient. X equals negative 10. Right, so as we're going through and we're solving our multi-step equations, first thing we want to do, if we have parentheses, distribute, get rid of those. If we have a bunch of terms on either side, right? We want to simplify each side separately, combine those like terms if needed. And then we go through step 3 and 4, which is the solving process. Right? Get rid of the numbers on one side, variables on the other. We finish it off by dividing, and then if you want to at the end, you can go ahead and check your answer.